Hello everybody and welcome to the second half of the old school Q&A. This is the normal Q&A section now as opposed to the previous one with Sween and Mike. And I'm joined by the wonderful mod Ash, rejoined by Kieren, and also joined by the wonderful mod Husky. Hello, how are you both doing?
Yeah.
I'll start with you first, Ash.
Oh, well, thanks. Been working with some of the engine team on the infrastructure for the clan system, and they think they've worked out which bit of it isn't currently working.
Brilliant. Okay, that sounds like good news. Husky, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Actually, like when I first started working, I hated working on interfaces, but the last few days have just been making nice little polishing changes to the combat achievements interface. So ever since doing the Trailblazer Areas one, I've just don't know, just suddenly I like doing them now. So it's been a treat to work on that, and I'm excited for the players to see that.
That interface for the combat achievements is looking amazing. So I can't wait to actually get it out one day.
We have wiki integration and world map location integration on that interface, all coded by Arcane, not me. But it's just it's so sick.
It's just slick.
When I was playing
slick
around with it for the blog, and I was like, wait, I can click the boss and it tells me where the boss is. This is kind of cool. I mean, obviously I know you can just wiki it or Google it, but having it in game just feels awesome.
It's also got a cool model of the boss, animating.
Well, hopefully we can get through the equipment rebalance stuff soon enough, and then bring combat achievements back to the forefront. But before then, before I get to the questions, I gotta get through the announcements, or else I'll get told off. I won't really, but anyway, let's get them done. Steam. Old School is coming to Steam. Make sure you mark the 24th of February in your calendars to play the best retro fantasy MMORPG on the planet. Whew, that's a title. Wishlist the game today by using !Steam. So yeah, I guess even if you're not intending to use the Steam client, if you're happy using the client you're using at the moment, if you could still wishlist it on Steam, it does help us a massive amount. Yes, help spread the word. !Merch. Apparently there's an image here to go alongside this. There we go. Look at that production. Dust Devils aren't the only reason to wear a face mask. Our official merch store has just been updated with these old school style face coverings to wear on your AFK adventures. And keep those eyes peeled, there's even more anniversary merch coming soon. Use !Merch to find out more. Oh, those eyes peeled, are we getting old school goggles? Wasn't there I think it was a thing actually at one point. I remember someone on Twitter put goggles on everyone's profile pictures. You know the gnome, goblin goggles or something, I think they were. Underground cave goblin goggles. That was cool. Alright, next one. !Equipment. If you haven't already seen, and if you missed the first half an hour of the stream, we've made the decision to postpone the equipment rebalance that we first announced 3 weeks ago. So use !Equipment to read our statement. As always, if you have anything you'd like to ask the team or myself, then please @OldSchoolRS with your questions. And last time I nearly forgot, so let's get through some cool community content that we have had created for us. Thank you everyone for all of the awesome work that you do. This first one here is titled "Don't Talk to Me or My Son Ever Again," and that comes from Frinterpacks, which is just great. We did a Fashionscape contest once, and someone came as a Saradomin Brew. So this is the next one. This one here is titled "Skating the Old Varrock Fountain," and this came from Jesse Martin, which is another awesome piece of work. Really great style. It's the same one that did your first time doing Tutorial Island, I think it was. The next image coming in is titled "Squishy Chin Chompers" by Rice Bunny RS. So some very cute plushies.
Oh my goodness.
There. Rice Bunny known for the infamous Olm plushie as well recently, I believe. Next one. Well, maybe you could get yourself a Tecton prop from Protector_0, which looks absolutely awesome. I really like that.
That is cool.
Big fan. All right, and then finally we have a piece of artwork that was created for our very own mod Herc by Legend Arts. So this was a custom commission to Legend Arts from Mudherk, and thought it was cool to share because it looks awesome. Legend Arts did a fantastic job on this piece. So, yeah. Very nice.
It's ridiculously good. I love to look at that internal tip.
It's so detailed. Like even if you look in the top, there's like buildings floating around in the clouds. I have no idea what they're meant to be. Some lore thing, I'm assuming, that I don't know. But it looks great.
Like, the more you look, the more you spot things.
Yeah,
I barely noticed the Hydra in the front because you're just staring at the character and you got the Hydra's heads on the floor. I love it.
Okay, cool. Oh wait, hold on. Maybe it's something to do with like referencing Hercules or something being the god. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on before I embarrass myself more than I do already. We've got some questions to ask. Let me scroll down to where they actually are. Okay. Oh, God, this is a big question. I'll try and get through this the best as I can. This comes in from PetBot OSRS. In my opinion, one of the main issues still plaguing this game is the lack of scaling within skilling. Going from a level 3 noob to a max level 126 is extremely rewarding. Skilling though? You get 20 to 25k XP an hour at Motherlode Mine at level 40, while the absolute peak you'll reach at 99 with a crystal pick, full outfit, big sack. I can't read the text anymore because someone's... Okay, big sack, that was a great one to end on. And optimized clockwise mining upstairs without any griefers is 42k XP an hour. What are your thoughts on making skilling more worthwhile at endgame?
I'd be glad to see it made more worthwhile for the value of what you're getting. But if we tried to continue the scale of the XP from what is a level 3 through what you can get at Motherlode Mine and continue that curve all the way to level 95 and above, I think we'd be giving XP rates that players might find objectionable.
I'm curious, chat, because I think... Oh, sorry, you go. I didn't realize you were still speaking.
I was just thinking the value of what you can get from it, on the other hand, really could do with some more love. And in recent times, we've been seeing more and more suggestions for what we could make out of amethyst in ranging weapons and ammo, for example.
I'm curious, chat, because I think I know the answer. What's the best skill in old school RuneScape, chat?
It's runecraft.
Wait for the response. Is it runecraft?
Everyone's either going for the real answer or the meme.
Yeah, that's the problem with doing this. I think most people would say the skill that they enjoy is Slayer, and that's not going to be everyone's answer, right? Slayer is one of the slowest skills in the game until you get to the point of very optimized block lists and barrage metas, right? Even for the general player sort of training it, it's like when you're like got your whip and it's like 20k XP an hour, for example, right? Like when you're just meleeing your tasks and stuff. I don't think the issue necessarily is the XP rates of skills. I think it actually makes old school RuneScape what it is, that there are these, long grinds you need to go for. And while I think Motherlode Mine is using the example, like maybe it could scale more, maybe it can't, it's very AFK. I think the thing that maybe matters is that the content that you're doing is actually enjoyable, right? And that's why, like, I know that Sepulchre is a terrible example to give for that because it is one of the top agility XP training methods an hour. The focus of that wasn't necessarily on the XP per hour, but just that the content was fun, right? And I think that there's more ways we can introduce fun methods to skilling so that you don't notice the time pass by is a better way to handle that, in my opinion. We've even had praise that like Mahogany Homes has been a really good way to break up the monotonous training of construction, and people quite like doing that. I think that might be a better way to approach it rather than just ramping up the XP per hour and making 99s like suddenly, not as special. Because if it, like, there are definitely 99s in the game, like cooking and fletching, for example, like, and strength to an extent is like people go, oh cool, it's your first one, like grats, but it's not as impressive as some of the slower ones.
Firemaking.
And I think that like fire making, of course, as well. I think that there is an element of saying keep the prestige, make it actually something that's still impressive, but make it fun, right? And maybe we should target the places where that just isn't fun, or that there is lack of diversity in training the skill.
That's generally been my view on skilling. Certainly, like the different things we've added to it, be it like adding Volcanic Mine, adding Hallowed Sepulchre, look at the Tempoross that we're currently working on. Give skills multiple options of ways to play that, so it's not just, potentially all of fishing. Yes, you might get trout and salmon or barbarian fishing or whatever else. Add different things. The aerial fishing or Tempoross lets you do something more engaging and different, rather than just click on a fishing spot. Oh, and this time it's a shark, and I used a harpoon, rather than there's actually a fishing run, man. Because the gameplay at the end of the day is the same. You're just picking a different tool out of your bank. And it might take longer to fish a shark than it does to fish a trout and salmon. But I like that mixing up thing. I think the one thing we can do, and I think the question really does hit on it, though, is the rewarding aspect, right? And it's not about XP rates, in my opinion. It's about feeling like you're getting something out of what you're doing, be it just the amount of gold you make. Now, profit is a hard thing to address, and a lot of people rightfully point out too many skilling resources on drop tables. Absolutely something we should look at, and that might help a little bit. But skilling's so much more accessible, which is another aspect which makes it hard to try and get it right. But Slayer does well, I think, because you get those big drops. You get those exciting drops while you're doing Slayer, and it helps. Other skills, I think, lack that a little bit, and you just don't feel that you get much out of them other than the XP.
Slayer also has very exciting milestones, right? Like, especially at the later end. You're like, oh my god, I can kill abyssal demons now. And the fact that you can be on a task and get a whip, that feels exciting. And then you're like, oh, now I can do Kraken. Now I can do Cerberus. Now I can do, like, Thermi. And I know that not all of these are, like, especially Thermi isn't a great boss. But it's still an exciting milestone to feel like you could suddenly unlock a whole new piece of content as part of it, right? That it makes even that slow grind, like, worthwhile, And, of course, Hydra at the top end is, well, an insane moneymaker. So
it's true regarding what you were saying about them being exciting bosses, but there's also things that aren't bosses like your Dark Beasts, where you get to pretty high-end Slayer and you get one of these things, which is not especially generous, and it's basically a cow with a magic attack. Could be better.
I'm never going to forget that reference now, Ash. It's pretty accurate as well, to be fair. Oh, dear. All right. Well, I think that was a really good answer. Thank you, everyone, for that. The next question comes in from Senec16. Can we get any details on Tempoross, like a release date or just a general month even? Of all the upcoming content, it's the one I'm most excited for by far.
It is nearing completion in terms of the core development. It's moving into a phase now. It's being play tested, a lot of balancing work going on to it. That'll take as much time as it takes. There might be quite a lot of feedback from play testing. There might be a lot of bugs to sort, but it's a really exciting place. As for launch, I think we're looking at March, April sort of time to give a rough sort of estimate of when we're looking. So we're near it. We're nearly there now, which is hella exciting.
All right, next question is from Shirt, Hoodie, Jacket, the full combo. Although you forgot trousers. I love the new LMS map design Mod West made. I was also wondering if Zerk/Pure builds are being planned as well for LMS. I remember in October it was discussed, so I'm wondering where you guys stand on it.
I believe we've said we're very keen on this. In fact, when I first made the loadout menu, I designed it to support additional modes being bolted in afterwards. That's not a project I'm on myself. I've got the clans thing, but it's something that I think the team is very keen to do.
I think if I remember... Oh, go on, Husky.
I've even heard that the team that's worked on the LMS map are keen for that to happen as well. So it's not even, that we're from the outside looking in thinking it'd be great. The team that's working on it think that would be great as well. I just don't believe it's coming with the LMS map, because the LMS map is one thing. Everything else is still a significant amount more work and testing to get it right and stuff, from what I understand.
I mean, even getting a new map out is going to be interesting to see how the gameplay develops with that, and that's something we're going to be paying attention to. Go on, Ayiza.
I was just going to say, I recall there's been a few conversations happening across Twitter and Discord, I believe, with various developers that are working on that particular project. And to summarize kind of like what was said between them, I think essentially as much as would have loved to have had, you know, the loadouts going out alongside the map, it would have been really good for obviously like two completely new things. Ultimately, there are problems with LMS that we need to solve, right? There is an issue with botting within LMS, and we know that, you know, typically as well, it's not always the most active at times, which was, you know, hopeful with the map, it will draw in a little bit more activity. And the map itself hasn't been, you know, played with by anyone outside of the team yet. So it's a case of, let's get the map in, and when the map goes live, we've got some changes that are going to be looking to combat botting as well within LMS. And then once they're both in, once we can kind of like see how that's had an impact on the situation, once we know that the map itself is like seamless, there's no issues with it, then we can move on to the next one, rather than trying to do too many things at once, and not really focusing on, you know, getting each part done as well as we could. So yeah, get the map nice and smooth running, sort out the bot situation, then look on improvements, which would be these loadouts. Definitely something we all want to do. So yeah. Sorry, I just butted in on that one. The next question from Lothlirial says, when will we get more information about how Group Ironman is going to work? I'm looking to make it my main game mode along with my friends when it releases, and it would be awesome to get an update.
Sure. We spoke a lot about what we had planned up front during the RuneFest announcement that I did. And I guess the truth is that there's only so many projects that the teams working on them can kind of juggle at a time without just sort of losing track of what they're working on. And we haven't really got to the stage of more in-depth design than what we gave at RuneFest, because we're still currently working on clans for one as the holdup. But it's the same team, I believe it's your and I, it's Team Ash, that's going to be working on it eventually. You know, we're the same team that's currently working on combat achievements, and, you know, I've worked on the 8th birthday event recently that is going to be coming out next week, I think yes. So so like there's lots of things where it's like you don't want to divert your attention too much, and we will get to that design when we get the time to work on that project, and once clans has progressed enough that we can take it. And once we have worked on those designs, we're obviously going to go through internal feedback, and then we'll share them in a blog, just like with everything else we do, right? So I wish I could share more. I think there are a lot of really important questions, and the biggest ones are like some of the niche ones, like, okay, what if someone in the group gets Dragon Claws, and there was an alt account, and they gave the Dragon Claws to the alt, and now they've got the best PKing account in the world because it can't gain XP, like outside of what a normal Iron Man could do? Or like, how do you handle like even just sorting out and talking about internally, and like, what happens if one person bots and if ruins it for everyone else? Or what happens if someone else joins the group? Like, do you give that person a cooldown and when they can't receive items from people, because you don't want to like people sell like, hey, join our group, we'll give you a T-bow, and then we'll kick you and you'll leave and you can make your own group after that. There's so many weird things that just need to actually be fleshed out from a design perspective, right? But I think everybody kind of knows what Group Ironman is at its core. I hope that makes sense. I kind of went over a bit longer than I thought I would there.
I think
that's correct. We look forward to getting to do more design on it probably when clans is a bit closer to completion, to be honest, because the team ain't going to be able to spare the resources to do in-depth design work while that's still going on. And speaking of which, we've got a demo of some more of that scheduled for later this month. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be a fun time. We'll have official news to share about that. Yeah, and hopefully in the next couple of days. But essentially, we're looking at a live stream and a blog to just go into more detail about clans. I think we touched on it last Q&A actually, but that is confirmed now. It will be happening at the end of this month. So yay, it's cool. Next question from Dave Kalman says, "What are the team's plans for Bounty Hunter moving forward?"
Ayiza, may I suggest you might like that one yourself? I know you mentioned some thoughts.
Well, I thought, is anyone else going to say anything first, and then I'll just add my thing on the end.
I think what you've got to say is probably the most valuable thing we could give them.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll quickly give a brief overview then. At the moment, in terms of like from a team perspective, the honest answer is there aren't any plans in the content plan, at least for Bounty Hunter at the moment. However, I am currently working in ideation time on a kind of like Bounty Hunter style proposal that could look to replace it in the future. I'm actually going to look to do probably my own kind of like stream with the community sometime soon to kind of like go over what that proposal is, flesh it out, and get some more ideas. To give you like a very top level view of like where I'm thinking with it, essentially, it would be very conceptual, so I may be terrible at explaining this, but imagine that you go to a person in Edgeville, and this person in Edgeville gives you some like teleportation device or something like that, and when you open it, it shows you a map similar to the Trailblazer area map, where you choose the areas, regions you wanted to unlock. But instead of them being regions, they're miniature instanced areas of like popular PvP hotspots, so like Edgeville style PKing, Grand Exchange PvP World style PKing, Varrock Fountain PKing, Camelot area. So these instance areas, you basically click on the area that you want to go fight in, and it then puts you into that instance area that has like everyone else in there. They're not real, like it's not really Edgeville that you'd go to. There'd be limits to how far you could go out. There would be no NPCs. It would just be like purely against players. So kind of private servery style in a sense, but it is just to focus purely on players wanting to fight against other players. And what would happen in these worlds is you'd be able to like get kills on people. Those kills would grant you points. Those points would then convert into a rating point. That rating point that you have determines like what other worlds you can access for like higher rating points. The higher rating people that you kill, the more like reward points that you get. Death throughout this whole place is still dangerous, so you'll lose all of your gear if you were to die to someone, just like you would normally within the wilderness or PvP. The difference would be that if you had untradables, the repair cost would no longer like have a gold sink, so that it would just be like the pure amount to repair. But the interesting thing, and I think this is where like the biggest amount of potential comes from it, is with the reward store. Because you'd be in this like instance area, that's the only way that you'd be able to do this like Edgeville style / Varrock Fountain style PKing like you used to be able to back in Bounty Hunter days. All of the rewards can be very specific to being only usable within these areas. So the store could have things like untradable potions, supplies to help reduce the cost and barrier to entry in terms of PvP. And then when you're looking at like uniques, we don't have to worry about power creep in the main game anymore, because all of the items are only usable within that game mode. So the idea that I had would be that, say for example, we wanted a new PvP weapon. The PvP weapon itself would be a cosmetic item that you'd have to buy points for. It would be untradable and cosmetic, so it'd have no stats at all, which gives no incentive for you to need to worry about boosting and such. And then what you basically do is you would either use an item on this cosmetic item, or you would just charge it with pure GP. And then if you were to lose it in PvP, the person would get the item that you put into it or the money that you put into it. So there's never a generation of wealth. It's a transfer of wealth instead. The act of like putting gold in or the act of putting an item in would give it stats, so it would no longer be cosmetic. But if you died, you'd just get the cosmetic version back, and then you'd have to recharge it with gold or an item or whatever. So yeah, at very top level, that's pretty much like what I'm thinking of, but it needs a lot more fleshing out, a lot more thinking of. But yeah, hoping in the next few days we'll be able to get there, and then I can maybe share something around for everyone else to kind of look into. But that's
Sounds
what I'm
great.
looking at.
For what it's worth, I'm interested to hear chat's opinion on stuff like this, right? Because this is things we've spoken about for the Gazette, and we kind of did that in the last one, where there's like a blog stage where we're like, it's gone through ideation and got team feedback. Then a formal design's been written up, and that design gets converted into a blog, and at that point the players know. But in the last Gazette, like there's whole stages before that where there's like the roughest of prototyping and concepts that are so... You've got such an open concept that like it could change, and random things could change it here and there. Like, are players actually interested in like getting more like information on that, like really rough sort of like, don't judge this on what it is as if it went in the game, but here's an idea, right? In things like Gazettes and stuff, because we've spoken about like that could be a cool thing to do for Gazettes, and that's kind of what Ayiza just did on stream. I'm sure like in chat people were like, oh, there's this problem and that problem, and that at this stage in the idea, that's not the point we're at with that idea to start nitpicking minor details, right? It's all about the high level concept, right? Super just curious to hear chat's sort of impression on that. Like, is that things that they'd be interested in getting in? Because it could be we present like 10 ideas to you in a Gazette, and like 3 of them only move forward, right? Like as like ever getting onto our roadmap, because
Yeah.
that's really how our ideation works. We scrap things all the time that just maybe it was a good update, but it wasn't a great update or an amazing update, right?
I think there's a lot to be said for sharing more of that early high level concept stuff. I mean, we talked about doing more like player validation, understanding what players actually want, and I look back on Boss Slayer Master as something that we pulled. You know, we blogged it. The feedback we got suggested we shouldn't go ahead, and so we stopped. But by that point, you know, we've put a lot of effort into the design. We've put the blog out there. You know, not a huge amount of work, but it's still a few weeks commitment to get to that stage. It's like to some degree, we could have said the words, "Do you want a Boss Slayer Master?" And we would have probably been told, "Don't even bother. It's not worth investigating." So, you know, it can say a lot to go out pretty early with that sort of thing. And I'm interested because we're looking at getting like proper beta worlds at some point, and all the chat's going to say beta now rather than you saying beta. But when we do beta worlds, we'll be able to actually upload to the game a separate world with completely different content there. So you'd actually be able to go and interact with things. I'm even interested stick a prototype up there. It's like the roughest ready thing, but it might give you, you know, some sort of sense of how's this going to feel. What's the gameplay here? If we could spin up like a vertical slice sometimes in the space of a couple of days. So yeah, that's the general thinking and behind some of these things. I think it'd be really interesting to start playing with that sort of way. You know, get ideas out there, get feedback.
The best part about that as well is take something like Boss Slayer Master, which there are a lot of people who really liked that, but there were a lot of problems that meant we pulled it. It would be super useful to have said, hey, look at Boss Slayer Master. This was super well received in its initial draft. It's like pre-blog stage. But then at the blog, it wasn't. What that tells us is the concept is really good, but the implementation was bad. And that gives us a clear sort of, okay, this is maybe something we can rework. Because players sometimes go, oh, you're just reblogging the same thing you've done before. And sometimes maybe they really don't want it. But I think that actually gives us more scope to say, actually, they did, right? And like even the idea, like maybe Boss Slayer Master like is just fine as a content with no additional rewards because the content itself is really powerful. That's like some things that have been spoken about internally, like maybe we didn't need to have this extra drop table and these extra things with it, right? The bells and whistles. But that's super, like, it would be really useful to get that, because you don't know right now. You don't know if it's ever worth pursuing because you only have the feedback of what we presented at that stage.
In addition to putting out the ideas out there, I would be glad to get to use the poll booths to see which of 10 ideas people are most interested in seeing taken further. So that, because love the Twitch chat a bit, but not everyone gets to tune in live for these things. So back in the day, we did a couple of blogs where we put out 4 concepts and said, well, we'll let you vote on them. We'll do the top 2, and maybe we'll come back to the other 2. Maybe we won't, based on how people seem to feel at whatever time we've got past the first 2. I like that approach, and I'd also like to see it used for the idea of a new skill. See, with warding, we spent quite a long time designing that one and going through iterations based on the feedback we got, because yes, some players said scrap it, we're not interested at all. Others said they were interested, and when it came to the poll, quite a majority of you actually did want it, it seems. So we weren't barking up entirely the wrong tree. But if we'd be able to start with maybe, are you interested in us doing a skill at all, and have some numbers behind that, then that would help filter quite a lot of the debate about warding, because a lot of the discussion about warding was people saying, nobody wants a skill, why are you offering a skill? And, given that it was proven that quite a lot of people were interested in this skill, that would have maybe let people focus on, all right, what kind of skill should we be offering you? Doesn't mean that a skill will definitely come into the game, because whatever made its way through all the design process would ultimately get its own poll, but at least it would have been settled whether you were interested in even the topic.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some potential there. I can't really add much else. Thanks, everyone. David David has asked, for the 6 Jad combat achievements, will there be an option to jump right into the challenge, or we have to go through all the waves?
Yeah, you do them sequentially, right? So you go there and you're only able to do, I think, 1 Jad, and then you beat it, and he's like, "Oh, congratulations, you beat the first wave. Now, do you want to try the next one?" And he goes, "Okay," and then you jump into 2, and then you can't jump into 3, 4, 5, and 6 until you've done the Inferno. But it is like you can just at any time go, "I want to do 6," and then I want to do 6 again, and then I want to do 6 again, and I think there's even like a toggle reward for doing it, which is like, I don't think it's going to be like the best money maker, but you know, it's something
at least. Yeah. So yeah, just to confirm, if you beat the Inferno, it doesn't mean you get to jump from, you know, wave 3 to 6. You still have to do 3, then 4, then 5 Jads, and then finally 6 Jads. But yeah, as Husky said, you can only get to the second part of the challenge until you've completed the Inferno, and then the rest of it unlocks. Oh, sorry, did you want to say something? Nope. Okay, Next question from Sinley. What's the status of the Kingdom Divided update? I'm really looking forward to seeing the updated Arceus spellbook in addition to the revamped Zaya Corrend areas.
It is getting started. So we took quite an early decision on this to blog and pull it earlier on, which is a bit of a new thing for us, so that we can get it out the blog and pull done. Gives us more time to plan and get into the update. But it's heavily started development now. The spells are making good progress. The quest is making good progress. In fact, Ed showed off some really cool stuff today, and that was exciting to see. Some of a boss battle that we all gave a lot of feedback on. It was super interesting. Like, yeah, it's coming along, and we're lucky we see the benefit of getting to see it every 2 weeks, like how it's progressing. But yeah, I'm excited to see how that quest goes. And Mod Ed's written quite a few now, and he's getting better and better at writing these things. So
there's quite a lot of graphics work still to do on it, as we saw this afternoon, because he's working with placeholder assets. And I don't know if you guys were watching the stream where Husky showed an early draft of the Sepulchre, whatever. I need a pronunciation stream for that. But some of his placeholders were legendary, and Ed's got a bit of that going on as well, which I think maybe if he's up for showing some previews, the players might enjoy it.
That would be funny. That would be good.
Showing the prototypes and placeholder graphics. I think we should try and record some of it and like include it in progress blogs or even on release blogs or a look back. I always think that they're fascinating. Even now, I've seen them so many times as a staff member. I still love to see them. So
yeah,
sure
we should do more. Yeah, we absolutely should stick them in a folder somewhere, and then we can always look back on them. And something I really wanted to do in that vein, it was like take more pictures in the office. Like when we're all in a meeting room with a whiteboard of cool stuff, it's like, let's take a picture. Obviously, can't do that anymore, but not to the same degree anyway. We do have our Miro boards. We can always, we can all share our Miro boards.
Wait, hold on, let me put the cat filter on.
You got a cat filter?
Oh, no, I don't. But it just reminds me of the viral video at the moment of like the courtroom. There's like a lawyer. It's like, I'm not a cat.
Oh, that, yeah.
He spoke the truth. He is not a cat.
It was so good. All right, quick, we've got to move on.
The cat for that meme is horrifying, though, just saying.
All right, I can't forget about it. Abyss OSRS has asked, any chance of removing worlds? 500 plus servers is a bit excessive. It's very difficult to find fights in the wilderness when there haven't been any wilderness updates in years and there are hundreds of servers to pick from.
Restricting which worlds you could visit that area on was something we pitched in a blog already, and I think the team remains quite keen on getting to do it. There are, however, things we would probably need to address about the content in the area before we could do that, because it's not just, we know a lot of people are going to resent that. They like there being lots of Runite rocks. They like there being lots of places where they can have a go for a boss and not meet too many people while doing it. I expect we're going to have to make some content changes, probably unpolled even, if we were to restrict how many worlds you could visit that area on. In terms of it might even be possible to stop you leaving too much, well, going too many other places from the wilderness on such worlds, by the way, so that there wouldn't be too much other activity going on the server and slowing down its processing. We'd have to look further into that, but that is not so easy.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
So that, Ash.
of course, it's that particular blog, but I think it was the March Gazette. We've delivered a few things off it. That was in there too, and we haven't had a chance to try that one yet. Along with, as Abyss may have noticed, we'd like to do more with the content that is in the wilderness.
Yeah, I was just gonna finish on that. As I know that in there it mentions that there haven't been wilderness updates in years. I mean, yes, it is true. There have been tweaks here or there, but in terms of bulky updates, I think the last one was obviously with Revs and Major Arena 2 and such, and Wilderness Slayer really. But we do have the wilderness changes coming up that are due to start around about April time in terms of development. So it shouldn't be too long now until we're able to start talking about that a little bit more with the with the community and players and such. So yeah, fingers crossed. Maybe some of those content things that Ash mentioned could be targeted alongside that. The next question here comes in from FTB Champ 231. Mod Husky mentioned in a live stream that too many Chaos runes come into the game. Have you considered removing them from Zulrah and Vorkath drop tables? This change, along with changing the silver and myth ore drops from Zolcano, would also help with Onyx prices.
I guess I should probably answer that one, right? Since I was called out in it. I can't remember if it was me or Arcane that talked about this, but yes, the long and short answer is that if too many Chaos runes are coming into the game, then yes, we have considered what we could do to reduce the amount of Chaos runes coming into the game. It is mostly the Onyx that fuels this discussion, and I mean, we've done it in the past, not me personally, but the team has in the past, gone and modified drop tables where appropriate. I don't think it's so much that Vorkath needs to necessarily be a lot less gold an hour, but maybe the specific resources, for example, and it is really difficult because I think, as you guys were saying in the first part of the Q&A, it does kind of depend on which content is being targeted by gold farmers, right? And consistent money makers tend to be up there for them. So yes, it is something we've considered, but I'm not going to tell the players okay, yeah, we're going to just go gut it all tomorrow, because I think that it is, like I say, specific items, and it's something we need to be careful with. Yeah, I don't know what much more I can say in that. I don't know if any of you guys have other input.
In the particular case of Zulrah, there's unique stuff there that's also consumable, which means that even if we were less generous with everything else one gets from Zulrah, there'd still be reason to go there. I know Kieran's spoken of this model for designing a loot table before. We don't need to be so generous with the other stuff from the snake, because people will still have reason to go there. I'm not exactly worried about Vorkath being abandoned anytime soon either. So those feel manageable.
Okay, great, thank you. I'll try and get through a few more questions. There's a couple of chat questions that I want to get through as well that we've been asked, and just conscious of time. Skateco has asked, can we make the purple chest in Thera Blood more pronounced? Some of us have vision issues and it's hard to differentiate.
Actually, yeah, I've looked a few times and gone, wait, there is a purple. I don't think there's any problem with making that more pronounced. It's celebrating a great thing that's happened. So, sure, I think I'd be for that.
Does this problem affect the light beam on the chest in Chambers of Zerk, by the way? Because it's the same shape, it's just tinted purple in one version or not, or the other. A random bit of feature creep I put in at the time because I thought it'd be a cool idea, and I didn't realise it would become a thing.
Yeah, the chests have a purple glow around the edges of the chest if there's a loot in it.
Yeah.
Perhaps it is that the light beam's really noticeable.
Well, maybe if we could get great big fat light beam on it as well.
Yeah. Well, there's an arrow on the chest, right? What if the arrow gets recolored? Because the arrow is pretty big.
If it's yours.
Yeah.
If it's yours,
Oh,
you
but
get
if
the
it's
arrow,
not
'cause you get
someone
the arrow
else's,
over your
yeah,
chest.
cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
maybe we
yeah.
could just add some bigger glow to it or some beam around the arrow. Oh, not the arrow if it's not yours. Like
Like a
Cool,
massive
Standing
huge
by
sound.
this.
2x2 purple beam. You know, like
sounds like sounds something to ask Art what they think.
I think they'd like it better if we work with them rather than what I keep
Yeah.
doing for the anniversary, which is to take the Mind Theatre random events spotlights, retinting them and stuffing them all over the time. Every time I do a holiday event, those things turn up with no cheerleading underneath.
Brilliant.
what it's worth. I think
It's your thing. I
think what-
remember it. Sorry, go on, Husky.
I think what Arcane did with the challenge mode lights being different colors is pretty cool as well. Like, that seemed to go around really well with the players, and even the disco light version.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to disagree with you because they are cool. But yeah, it does sound like we can at least do something there in terms of the chests. So that's good. Thank you for the question. Right. What's the question shall I get next? All right. Let's go to some chat questions quickly because we don't have a huge amount of time. So this one comes in from TinkOSRS. Says, "Hello, y'all. Good to see you today. My birthday was yesterday, and it hit me how much and how long RuneScape has actually been a part of my life through the years. Thank you for keeping the game we love going." Well, happy belated birthday, Tink. Phil's birthday man in the chat. Wasn't really a question. We're just wishing Tink happy birthday. And yeah, it is good that we've been able to keep RuneScape going for so long, isn't it, really? Oh, we played it in school, and now it's my job. That's crazy.
I wish I could have played it in school, but I'm not young enough.
Well, I wasn't old enough to play it at the time anyway, so...
Oh, just so ridiculous when you think RuneScape's 20. Old School's about to be 8. That's nearly... Old School is now nearly half the entire lifespan of RuneScape. That sounds wrong.
Scary.
One milestone, one particular milestone is the time from 2007, our archive point, to the launch of Old School, nearly 6 years. When Old School passed that duration of time, and we'd been going longer than the intervening gap before we came out, that felt like a thing to celebrate. Also, in terms of just which game has more of my code, that particular milestone's passed as well, because I worked on RuneScape for the 2 years, 2005 through 7 in the dev team, and then the 8 years of Old School. So it felt meaningful to me when the 2 years up to 07 and then the 6 years on top of that of RS3 development, I suppose you could call it, was passed. It's been a good many years, and here's to having many more.
The best part of playing Old School RuneScape at school was figuring out which proxy the staff members hadn't actually banned that could get you to miniclip. So you'd be like trying to pass messages to your friends and be like, this one works, but don't tell the teachers, don't tell the staff. I think almost everyone can relate to that.
I actually see, Husky, I had the advanced strats. Me and my friends worked out that what the default password was for the Windows accounts in our school. And so all you had to find was a staff member who would almost certainly have a Windows account, but hadn't used the machine. And so you can think of like supply teachers, secondary teachers, that sort of thing, who weren't using computers. We just used the default password in their login name, which was also predictable. And suddenly you were on a staff account, and then we sat and played RuneScape in IT.
Oh, I can imagine now Kieren putting on those shades, Hacker Man style.
Literally, that is Hacker Man, mate.
Well, it got you in the industry. Admittedly, I was in uni already by the time RuneScape was a thing, but I didn't always have access to good hardware or indeed stable internet in my halls of residence. So when I was doing the Underground Pass quest, I was actually in the Catholic chaplaincy office using the dial-up password of a Dominican nun who didn't know I'd memorised her password to access the internet at all. And I was doing Underground Pass of fighting demons like Halthian and Doomion, courtesy of Sister Pauline Burling from the Dominican Order. Thank you, Sister Pauline. You're out there.
Hacker man.
Wow.
I wish I had stories as cool as you guys. I guess this is why you guys are my superiors. You guys had the next level strats.
We can't top that.
I just remember being on a caravan holiday and like they had like paid for internet, like you pay for like 2 hours, and I convinced my mum during this like fortnight holiday to give me access to the computer for 2 hours so I could be there for the farming update, because I'd stockpiled my seeds and I was really excited that I planted my potato and I was like really happy, you know. So
you were the people who power grind, picking up the seeds again because you'd stockpiled so many and getting XP fast by planting, digging them up. Because we had to hotfix that so that you couldn't dig up healthy plants. And you say, why would I do that?
I remember going to like, this is when I was doing my A level. So this is me at like 16. This is 16, 17. So I'm going back 11 years. That's 11, 12 years now. And I'm doing my A levels, A level computing class. And what I found out is the teacher who took that class and taught us programming played RuneScape. and I remember this, because this is when the Adventures log came out. And that's the first time you as a player could find out how many hours you had played. And me and the teacher both literally, like during class, me and the teacher looked at our playtimes together and cringed at like the fact that we'd spent like an eighth of our lives the last few years playing RuneScape. And it was like, oh, that's scary. It's scary to think regrets. About. No regrets, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Rookie numbers, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask another question just quickly to move us on. That was a great topic though, so thank you. I'm glad that we managed to cover that one. Ventilaire has asked, in a recent update, a fireworks sound effect was introduced to the game. Will there be a way to toggle this off in the future?
We could change it so that it's played only to the person who's doing the leveling up, at which point it'll be controllable along with their sounds, and then you won't hear other people's. But we're not currently able to do a toggle on a sound that other people may or may not hear, in the same way we can't do a toggle for the pet noises.
Okay. Thank you. Then I guess we'll just have this as the last question so I don't keep everyone too long. It's question 19 on the sheet for those helping out behind the scenes. Classified Secret says, the new Isle of Souls is a beautiful piece of content. Are there any plans to add more content? For example, more ways to process raw materials obtained on the island or small quests?
I haven't heard of any, but the devs who made it are very big on leaving the scope open for more lore to be revealed, and we need more things to be plugged in. Certainly, I would be glad to see a few more things tweaked so that one could do Snowflake accounts purely on the island. I know by adding more things, it can take away the point of having the Snowflake. On the other hand, a level 1 thieving activity in there that gave you a little XP might open up a lot of possibilities without being a significant change.
I feel slightly responsible for all that. I remember, like, when we look at the original Soul Wars on the map, I think during one of your sprint reviews, I said, oh god, the coastline just looks so bad. Can we do something to make it look like it's, like, actually, like, got things around it? And then Mod Rye went nuts. Like, actually just went crazy with like adding everything, so much so that we felt like we had to pull it, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, because originally it was just all like... I remember
exactly when it came about, and it was like, cool, we're going to get shown what Mod Rye's done for the environment around Soul Wars Island now, and it's like, I'm expecting some beautiful scenery, and like, oh, no, Mod Rye's built a whole island. Everything's on there. So it was crazy.
I remember at one point he was... On you go.
Well, player Rose, we might. Your turn. You have the beard, sir.
I hate. This is why the sofa is so much easier. Like, for this talking over people stuff. Anyway, I was just gonna say, I think like Rye was joking and saying you could probably max on this island, and I think there's a few instances where it doesn't make it between like Slayer and construction and stuff. But like he was like, yeah, like I want to think of more things to put on this island. So he was going through the skills and going, oh, that we could do a thieving thing. We could, yeah, that was what he was thinking about, you know.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I think it's a great little island, nice little area. But there aren't any immediate plans, I guess, is the answer in terms of like changes there. But it's not to say that we're not open to looking at other things. Right, I think that covers everything. So I guess for those of you that weren't here at the start of the stream, we did start earlier today. So if you want to have a quick update in terms of the equipment rebalance being postponed, as well as some questions regarding account services, customer support, then go check the VOD, or also wait till it's been posted onto YouTube and you'll be able to check all of that then. In terms of announcements, we've got Steam. Old School is coming to Steam, so make sure you mark the 24th of February in your calendars to play the best retro fantasy MMORPG on the planet. Woo. Wishlist the game today by using !Steam. So even if you're not planning on using the Steam client, please, if you could wishlist it, it does help us out massively. !Merch, roll the image if possible, please, production. And I'll quickly read this out. Dust Devils aren't the only reason to wear a face mask. Our official merch store has just been updated with these old school style face coverings to wear on your AFK adventures. And keep those eyes peeled, there's even more anniversary merch coming soon. Use !Merch to find out more. Alright, cool, that's that one. And then lastly, equipment. If you haven't already seen, and if you missed me saying it a few moments ago, we have made the decision to postpone the equipment rebalance that we first announced 3 weeks ago. So use !Equipment to read our statement, or head to oldschool.runescape.com and check out the news page. Okay, cool, I think that's it. There's a lot of questions that we'll try and get through in the next Q&A. Obviously, this one a little bit different. I think it's going to be the last time for a while at least. We'll talk about equipment rebalancing so we can get some more general questions like we have. But yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for those of you that joined me on the stream today. Thank you to production. I wish you all a very wonderful evening. Thank you and goodbye.